This is Ask Leah Question Day, right? So if you're not sure what this is, leave a question in the comments below and I will answer it the next week, or if there's lots of questions then I'll split them up and answer them at some stage, let's put it that way. Alright, so any questions that go into the comments on this particular Wednesday video I will answer on this show. Okay, right, so I'm going to start with Roop's question. I hope I say that name properly. I'm sorry if I don't. Roop, he asked the question, can you make a video about contacting and working with your ancestors? And I am recording this after yesterday's video, so that's why I look the same, and I thought I'd keep it here because of the background. This is actually my ancestor altar, so it's quite pertinent to the question. Okay, so working with the ancestors, this can get very complicated, or you can keep it very simple, and I prefer to keep it simple. So I'm not going to go into all different rituals and tapping the bone and things like that. The best way to contact and work with your ancestors is with an ancestor altar. So that can, again, be simple or complicated. So to begin with, I would suggest getting a white candle and a glass of water, putting it on a shelf or a dedicated space like I have here, and then just talk to your ancestors. And you can talk to them generally, or you can talk to specific ones. I have pictures of my parents on my altar. I've also got a skull which has sigils from various demons which particularly work with the dead and dying and things like that. Euronymous being one of them, Bulberith, etc. So you can just add whatever comes. If you've got pictures of your loved ones and they are dead, do not put living people on an ancestor altar. It's considered to be a bad omen. So make sure that the pictures you put, and the pictures and the items you put on your ancestor altar are specifically of dead people. Now, when it comes to ancestors, these do not need to be blood relatives. Ancestors can be any dead person, any person who has passed on, who you have a particular connection with. And you may even find that someone comes along who you never even knew during life that becomes an ancestor. So don't think that you have to stick with blood relatives, because not everybody's blood relatives were nice people. You may have had a bad relationship with an uncle or an aunt or something like that, and you don't have to include them on your ancestral altar. You may also find that even if you had a bad relationship, or if the person was particularly against your practices during life, that after death that changes. So you may find that they actually do pop up and you develop a completely new relationship. And through that process, some people also find that they get a lot of healing that takes place because the relationship they had with the person during life was very bad, but after death it becomes good, and they start to understand a lot of things about the person, the things that they went through, which forced them or caused them to be a certain way. So it can actually bring a lot of healing in that aspect. But as I said, ancestors don't need to be blood relatives. They are anybody you had a particular connection with. So quite often it is teachers, mentors, people like that who become your ancestors. There's a lot we can discuss about ancestral lines, and it goes into a lot regarding your own beliefs. you know, how you view life and death and the cycles that happen. So that becomes very personal. But working with your ancestors, really quite simple. As I said, get a dedicated space. It can be a shelf, it can be a table, it can be whatever dedicated space you can actually give them. Put on a glass of water and a white candle, and if you have pictures or items that they had that were passed on to you, you can add them to the altar. And you decide to do it daily or weekly or whatever time period you choose, and just sit, light the candle, make sure there's always water. That just gives offering to the spirits, to the ancestral spirits. But you just light the candle, sit down, and just talk to them as you would if you were talking to them as if they were alive. So tell them about your day, tell them about your problems. Ask them if they have a particular or some particular advice about something or something that you're going through. And then remember to listen. You know, there's talking and then there's listening. So, and you'll find that when you start working with them, if you haven't been working with spirits for long, you might feel you're not getting an answer. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing it. And over time, you'll find that you start getting an answer. And that answer may come in various different fashions. So, as I say, just sit down, light the candle. You can get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and sit down with them and offer them a cup of coffee or a cup of tea as well. If I mean, my father used to drink tea during life, so I like to give him a cup of tea. So I'll make a cup of tea for him and I'll put it on the altar, sit down and talk to him. So really, you can keep it really simple. And this is ancestral veneration. It's really just talking to them, getting to know them, and finding out how they are in the afterlife, if we want to call it that. So just start the practice and carry on from there. All right, so the second question from Waste Yellow, also hope I'm saying that properly. Although you may have already discussed this on a Black Hat chat, I'd love to hear more about the differences between Egregores, Tulpas, and servitors. All right. I don't, there's a simple answer and there's a difficult answer. They are all thought forms. There you go. There's your simple answer. If we had to try and define a difference between the three, a servitor, let's start with servitor, okay? The term comes mostly from chaos magic in relation to the creation of a thought form. So a servitor is a body of energy that is created by the magician and is programmed with a particular task. And that task is whatever the magician wants to accomplish. And it is usually given a lifespan. I think that's probably the big difference here, is the lifespan. Egregores tend not to have a lifespan. Tulpas, I'll get to tulpas just now, it's a bit more of a difficult topic. So the servitor is usually given a lifespan, and that is often, once the task is completed, it will then disintegrate back into the energy that it came from. A servitor is often, although we do consider them to be thought forms, it does differ slightly, because quite often a servitor is created from a particular energy. It may be the magician's energy, it may be one of the occult elements. It could be from a particular emotion. But it's energy that comes from somewhere and is then formed or concentrated into a particular area and formed into a body. And that body can be a ball, it can be, the way I work with them, I just form them into a ball. They may develop into a particular, or morph into a particular form at a later stage, but it's usually a ball of energy that is concentrated, and that is programmed with the task, with its name, with the task, or sorry, I said the task, and with its lifespan, and how it will disintegrate back to the element or the energy that it came from, that it was created from. So an egregore differs from the servitor in that an egregore is usually worked with by a group of magicians or people, rather than an individual magician, which would be working with a servitor. However, the egregore usually starts out as a servitor, and this becomes more of a thought form because the group actually develop it through thought. However, if it's done intentionally, then the egregore is often formed from different elements. You can actually form an egregore from all of the occult elements, put one in at a time, and create this body. Just as we have all of the elements within ourselves, then we add that to the body, the anthropomorphic body, which becomes the egregore. An egregore, however, becomes stronger and stronger and becomes more sentient. So servitor is an individual thing which is created by an individual magician and programmed with a task and has a lifespan. Once the task is completed, it then disintegrates back into the energy that it came from. An egregore is something which is created and built upon. So it develops, it grows, it becomes more intelligent, it becomes more sentient and independent. And you'll find that with an egregore is fed energy, and it also supplies energy or knowledge or direction or whatever it is. So an egregore usually forms over a group of people who get together consistently and regularly and have the same intention. They are talking about a particular topic. So an egregore will form around a coven, or even a book club. So an egregore can form over cities, it can form over countries, it can form over specific religions. The Christian egregore is probably the biggest egregore we have currently. So their god is an egregore. It was formed, it was developed over centuries, and it has grown, and it is constantly being fed, and it therefore keeps that group of people moving in a particular direction. So an egregore, as I said, used by a group of people, not often for a particular task, but it can be, depends how it was formed. If it was formed with intention, then it can often have a particular task, but it grows and becomes sentient. The difficulty here is that as it becomes intelligent and independent and sentient, it can then break away and start causing havoc, depending on how it was treated. If it was not treated with respect, you could end up with a problem. All right. Tulpa. This is difficult. Tulpa originally comes from... Sorry, I just had to go and get my tablet. Tulpa originates from Tibetan Buddhism. Now, the difficulty here is that if you go searching for information on tulpas, and I'm going straight to Wikipedia here, because it's often quite a bad example. Well, Wikipedia is pretty good. It says, Tulpa is a concept in theosophy, mysticism, and the paranormal, of an object or being that is created through spiritual or mental powers. Modern practitioners who call themselves tulpamancers use the term to refer to a type of willed imaginary friend which practitioners consider to be sentient and relatively independent. So, in this term, what this is speaking about is servitors and egregores, right? The problem is that this article doesn't even mention anything about Tibetan Buddhism. Oh, there is mention of spiritualist Alexandria David Neal, stated that she had observed these mystical practices in 20th century Tibet. She described tulpas as magic formations generated by a powerful concentration of thought. David Neal believes that a tulpa could develop a mind of its own once the tulpa is endowed with enough vitality to be capable of playing the part of a real being. It tends to free itself from its maker's control. According to David Neal, this happens nearly mechanically, just as the child, when her body is completed and able to live apart, leaves its mother's womb. She said she had created such a tulpa in the image of a jolly Friar Tuck-like monk, which later developed a life of its own and had to be destroyed. David Neal raised the possibility that her experience was illusory. I may have created my own hallucination, though she said others could see the thought forms that she created. So, I'm not a Tibetan Buddhist, so I can't really speak in regards to tulpas itself. The difficulty is that the term has made itself into Western society, into Western magic and things like that, and I think it has been skewed a little bit. As far as I know, tulpas are thought forms which are generated from thoughts and emotions that a Tibetan monk may consciously create, which is the same thing as an egregore at the end of the day. This thing grows in intelligence, it grows in sentience, and it grows in independence, and it becomes free of the creator. So very similar to the egregore as far as I can tell, but I'm not an authority on Tibetan Buddhism, so I'd rather not talk about tulpas. I'd rather talk about Western magic in terms of servitors and egregores. So I think that answers the question. If it doesn't, just ask me again, clarify what you're actually looking for in the answer. All right. I think I'm going to end this one today. I'm not going to do there was a third question. I'll do that next week about astral projection. Otherwise, we're going to go on and on and on. Astral projection is a very big topic, so I'll cover that one next week. Okay, so have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one. I'm still trying to get used to the idea that I'm doing a video each day instead of once a week. So I keep wanting to say have a great week and I'll see you next week, but I'm not. I'm going to see you tomorrow. All right, so have a good one. Cheers for now.